I want to jump to the story from the Post-Millennial, and we'll get into the hard politics of this. We have this story. Katie Hobbs, press secretary, resigns in disgrace after posting threat of violence against, quote, transphobes on Twitter. And the important bit here is that the post was made Monday night, well after everyone already knew the motivation of the shooter. Well, I presumed motivation of the shooter, the identity of the shooter, and that there was a manifesto. Police had stated that they believed identity played a role in the motivation. And then she posted a photo. It says, "Us when we see transphobes." And it's a picture of a woman holding two handguns and clearly pointing them at someone. Many people saw this as a direct call for violence. And the crazy thing is, Tucker Carlson did a segment about this last week where he said these people want to get guns. He was talking about trans activists taking up guns and the threat of violence. And then sure enough, he was roasted for it. The left attacked him for it. Then come Monday, we get this. This woman posted this photo and left it up for days. She did not take this down. It was taken down by Twitter. I do not believe she would have taken it down or resigned unless she absolutely had to, because this borders on criminal activity. I don't think she created information that is a clear and present threat, but based on the call to the Trans Day of Vengeance and what happened on Monday, she's basically there already. I think these people, you saw what happened with the Covington kids. You brought up Nick Sandmann.
Yep.
They called for the death of children, all because a video emerged showing a Native American banging a drum in his face. That's all it was. When I saw that video, everyone's like, wow, Tim, you got to see this video. Say something about it. And I was like, what is there to say? I don't know what happened. It's a kid with a guy banging a drum in his face. And they were like, yeah, but look at that kid. Look what he's doing. I'm like, what is he doing?
He's standing there.
Sure enough, I found the live stream that showed the Native American man walked up to the kid and banged a drum in his face. And I'm like, why are y'all mad at the kid? One guy posted a picture of a wood chipper with blood coming out of it. One guy, I think it was Reza Aslan, said the kid was punchable. These people are a zombie mob. They would not apologize to take this down unless they were forced to do so. And when all that went down, many of them didn't. They were calling for the death of children they didn't care about the facts. They didn't care about what was true. And the media lied to defend the mob. This is why I'm really worried, especially about this weekend, because I can't see this going in a positive direction. Not in the short term.
I mean, we're getting to a tipping point, and that's what I think worries me, is that what is acceptable, right? That do they, what sort of act of violence? Because this would have normally gotten complete outrage. The idea that this is happening, you talking about it, is probably the extent that we're going to see of it. It doesn't make ABC News. It doesn't make the Washington Post or the New York Times.
Well, let's go.
I guarantee if you take out Katie Hobbs and you write Glenn Youngkin or Ron DeSantis, Lester Holt's leading with this tonight.
Let's go back to the sports metaphor or analogy. If you went into a bar surrounded by everyone wearing the same jersey and said something disparaging about the Jets, everyone's going to laugh. No one's going to go, hey, look, man, look. It goes a little too far. They may be a different team, but we're all just trying to be friends. They'd be like, yeah, and they'd high five you.
Right.
They don't care when you insult the opposing team. The only problem is a friendly sports game. It's fun to have that kind of rivalry, and it's almost, sometimes it gets out of hand, especially with soccer hooligans and stuff. But the hokey, like my team is better than yours, is all in good fun, and we want our teams to win. The problem with this is they're telling everyone it's life or death. They're saying the right wants to commit a genocide. Mm-hmm. Well, that level of rhetoric it's in the real world, and these are people who have guns and are doing firearms training. Now, what we saw on Monday, they've been planning for things like this. These far left extremists.
But the thing that I find funny too is it's the opposite, right? I don't really care. I mean, to be honest with you, like my view has always been, and I think generally speaking, people on the right are like, hey, go live your life. I don't really care, right? I mean, that's generally, people on the right generally are like laissez-faire about what you want to do with your life. It's the people on the left that are the most intolerant. They preach tolerance, but they're the ones who actually want to come out and attack people on the right. They love to preach about this idea of tolerance, but their idea of tolerance is agree with me about being tolerant.
It's hard for me not to wonder if this sort of, and you're right, it won't get picked up everywhere, but a fair number of people have talked about this tweet and how it seems just obviously inappropriate, uncalled for, completely insensitive. It makes me wonder, independents, how they'll react to it. People who are sort of not very political, they might lean a little bit left, they might lean a little bit right, but watching the ground beneath them shift and totally split, they're going to have to make a decision on which side they fall. And I can't say that this is enticing anyone to think highly of Katie Hobbs. Obviously, it's not her official account. It wasn't from her. It's just someone who was in her administration. I think these moments where you have people siding with someone who literally murdered children and 3 adults, it comes down to the independent voters. What are they going to do?
They're probably going to side, many of them like cowards, with whoever's in power.
But I think, but my point is this: if they're never presented with that choice, and that's what I would argue, is that if you walk down the street tomorrow in any place, they're going to say, I didn't hear about this. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would say this all the time when I used to work at the RNC, and I'd call a reporter up and say, hey, I'd get a call and say, little Tommy at, Jefferson Middle School did the following bad. What's the RNC's position on it? We get called for everything. And then some prominent Democrat would do something outrageous. And I'd be like, did you guys call the DNC for comment? Every Washington Post, New York Times, they go, we didn't even know that occurred. I'm like, how did you not know this? Nancy Pelosi's the minority leader, Speaker of the House, whatever position she had. Well, we didn't hear about it. So they never report on these things. So I guarantee you the problem is that this is my point, that that no one in the middle is going to hear about this because the NBC News and the Washington Post aren't going to report on it. So the person in the middle isn't going to even know that it occurred.
Except moderates do consume some conservative media.
A lot of people watch this show that are in the middle.
And that's, again, I'm not saying that enough people, but the majority of Americans, when they wake up tomorrow morning and watch, Good Morning America, the Today Show, or CBS, it's not going to pop up there. Whereas if it was a Glenn Youngkin or a Ron DeSantis or a Kristi Noem, they'd see it.
You mentioned tolerance earlier and how the left and the liberal mind used to be the side of tolerance. And then because I used to be like that, I'm like, accept everybody's cool, whatever. And then you get these behaviors of intolerance that come in and you're like, well, I'll tolerate it because I'm tolerance. And then the system starts to become intolerant. I'm like, am I supposed to not tolerate intolerance? Because then I'm the intolerant one. Mm-hmm. And then what? Then I'm the villain. It's like that music video, Tim, that you did, Will of the People. Like, am I supposed to say, no, this villain is a villain and I do not tolerate it? Then I become the villain. Like, at what point... Where's the balance?
But I feel like you have to be able to say what your personal values are, right? Like, you shouldn't tolerate things that fly directly in your face. I love the idea of let everyone live and let live, but in reality, that's impossible to do unless you have a common set of values.
So you're coming to the adult realization of conflict, Ian, where there is no end point. There is no position of absolute moral authority. So you take a look at what the left does. They seem to operate not on principle, but on collective vision. If the zombie horde of the left deems it so, they do it, even if it's hypocritical to their previous stance. You see this with, we talked about the other day, Brett brought it up, Defiant L's, where that Dash guy posts, this is why the Republicans want to get rid of the FBI. And then a few months later, he's like, we should completely get rid of the FBI. Like, there's no logic other than, does it benefit me or not? And so the issue is, one thing that I've talked about, people need to understand is, here's the question. Should parents have final say in whether or not their children receive a medical treatment? Would you say yes or no?
100%.
So then what about the parents that want to give their kids sex changes? Should the government then intervene and stop them from doing so?
I think below 18, if it's a life-altering change,
my point is simply this. The left argues parents should have a final say in their child's development only if it pertains to their ideological value. Then when it comes to the parents who are trying to stop the kids from undergoing this, they say the parents are abusing the kids and the kids should be protected by the state. Thus, in Washington, children underage can go to a doctor and get sex changes without their parental consent.
Right.
So the issue is both sides are saying the same thing, but clearly one side is right. Well, I think their morality is based upon collectivism and not principle. Our morality is based on principle and not collectivism. And so my view is, minors can't consent to these things. However, the challenge then becomes, we actually do think there is a point where the government should intervene and tell a parent, no, you cannot give your child this medical treatment.
But think about it. Because if you take that view, if one were to take that view, and a parent came in and said, my religion believes that you need to have your left arm cut off.
We'd say no.
You'd say no because that's insane. Like so, and again, if you believe that below a certain age that you are altering a body to do something that has
this is my point. Your moral position is not simply parents have final say. A lot of conservatives kept saying this. They kept saying parents should determine what's right for their kids. So Ron DeSantis was correct to pass the Parental Rights and Education bill. And then my response was, okay, and if the parent wants to give their child a sex change? No, not then. Then the government should intervene. And it's like, okay, so you do think there are instances where the government should intervene based on your morality. Now, I agree with you. I think we are correct. Children can't consent and they shouldn't be getting these things. But the left in Washington has an inverted worldview where they think children should be able to go to a doctor without their parents knowing and get these treatments based on the same logic that that the government should intervene if parents are abusing their kids. So we think a parent who wants to give a kid a sex change that's abuse and the government should stop them. For them in Washington, they think a parent who blocks a kid from getting sex change is abusing that kid and the government should be able to stop them. They're both arguing the same sentence with a different, it's like Scott Adams says, it's one screen, but two different movies being played to two different groups of people. That's why I'm like, I don't see how you're going to be able to go to those people and convince them. But anyway, back to what you were saying, Ian, my point is this. That's why the statues rotate and there's always a new villain. For those that don't know the reference, we produced a music video several years ago where these people are pulling down a statue and it's a wheel. A new statue comes up when one statue gets pulled down.
And then they pull the next one down and another one comes up and the wheel turns.
It just keeps, there's a new statue every time. When Group A gets their leader put in power, Group A doesn't revolt against him. The next revolution is from Group B. Group B tears down the statue of Captain A, and then Group C protests Group B. So if you get a Donald Trump in power, it's not like one day Trump supporters go out and stage a revolution. No, the Trump supporters are happy with Trump. It's the left that comes out and stages the culture revolution. Then when they put Biden in, it's the Trump supporters that try to remove. So that's why there's always going to be this cycling, this wheel that's cycling. But as we develop two generations of youth hyper polarized, you are setting the stage for an outright civil war.
You know, I think there is a potential silver outline to this. The very good outcome to this is that I kind of agree with you, Sean, about I think if it's a life-altering surgery for a minor, that maybe there should be some oversight of what a parent's going to do to a kid. But I don't think that it's up to us to stop them from doing it. I think it's the kids that are getting changed, that are becoming adults and realizing, what did they do to me? Right. Mm-hmm. And now they're speaking out. That was like Chloe Cole and people that have been through this and are like, I will sue these companies, and maybe people will sue their parents. I don't know how it's going to come out, but I think that generation of people are going to be the ones that speak up and speak out to others that are going through it as 13-year-olds or 9-year-olds or whatever.
Yeah. When we're talking about this, I keep thinking about this case from Canada where I think she was like 14-year-old girl was a Jehovah's Witness, and she was diagnosed with lymphoma and she needed a blood transfusion, and that went against the doctrines of her religion. And she was like, I'm not going to get it. This is what my family believes. I don't want to go through this. And ultimately, a court in Canada intervened and ordered her to go through the treatment. She would have died from lymphoma, is what they say, without the treatment, and the treatment will have saved her. It's this very strange line between, did she have the right to refuse it when she could have been saved? Are we infringing on her religious rights? She's 14. It's different than like a 6-year-old, but she's still not an adult. At what point do we say there are some things that we do to protect your life so that you can become a full adult and make the decisions on your own?
Exactly.
I'm big into naturopathic medicine. That terrifies me, that I would think like, no, you have to take the pharmaceutical under court order.
Yep,
that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like you need diet and exercise and sunlight. Those things are like the basis of health. So I don't like that.
But there's not really a naturopathic answer to the gender question, right? Like that would be like, maybe go to therapy and talk about it with someone and wait until you're older to intervene. But with transgender issues, it has to be medical intervention. It has to be surgical.
It could be diet too, like stress. If they're drinking a lot of Pepsi when they're, no offense, Pepsi, if they're drinking a lot of sugar when they're a little kid, that could tweak them out, make them go crazy. If they're getting Adderall when they're 9, like that's dietary.
But if your parents then also believe, yes, you are born in the wrong body and we need to intervene, it's not like they're going to be like, so stop drinking Pepsi and that'll cure that, you know? Like there are some issues where people's personal convictions conflate against what actually might be the safest route. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.